Hey guys, it is Wingy here and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Series 10. Just so you're aware, if you are watching this on Saturday, the day that this goes up, then this will be the first part, and part 2 will be up tomorrow. The reason for this is I just want to talk about the finale separately, so I'm going to do that in the second part, as well as my overall rating and overall feeling towards Series 10. But what we're doing today is talking about the first 10 episodes, a couple of overviews about some of the new characters and new things in this series, and well, yeah, you'll find out. Also, spoilers. But just before I get into the review, I want to give you guys sort of where I was at before this series. So, Series 9, I hated for the most part. With the exception of a couple of episodes, I didn't really enjoy it at all. I feel like Clara just took over way too much. Moffat just didn't really have a good direction for the series, and the overall story arc as well was just frankly piss poor. And after the 2 Christmas specials, I still wasn't really that hyped. The fact that Nardole was back, I mean, yeah, why not? I mean, well, why, mainly? And that teaser clip of Bill, I wasn't too excited for her either. But I love Capaldi, and I want to see what the show would be like without Jenna Coleman. So, let's get into the review. Series 10. Peter Capaldi's last series, Stephen Moffat's last series. We have 2 new companions and 12 brand new episodes to rant and rave about, or praise, who knows. So first of all, I want to talk about the cast, starting with Peter Capaldi. I mean, the sky is blue, Peter Capaldi's great as the Doctor. It's not even opinion at this point, it's just fact. The guy was born to play the Doctor. He's just great in every scene, and even not just in this series, but in Series 8 and Series 9, he just makes even crap episodes watchable, although not Hellbent. That's just not watchable at all. But yeah, Capaldi, great throughout this entire series. Obviously, there's some episodes where he isn't in them much, only 1 or 2, but even so, he shines whether he's at the forefront or whether he's not. He's just great. Matt Lucas is back as Nardole. Now, if you had said to me before this series started, I'd have actually liked Nardole, I would have told you to fuck off. He was so bad in the 2 Christmas specials. Maybe not the Return of Dr. Mysterio as much, but I still thought he was pointless and not really needed. However, I will eat my words, and I imagine a lot of people will agree with me when I say this. Nardole was actually a pretty good addition to the TARDIS this year. Was he 100% necessary? Absolutely not. But Nardole added something to this series that I actually really enjoyed and actually really appreciated as well. The comic timing and the quips were there when they needed to be, and in some of the more emotional moments, Matt Lucas, for the most part, not always though, did a really great job as well. Then of course we have the new companion, Bill, as played by Pearl Mackie. Now like I said, that teaser clip that we got of Bill did not really fill me with hope. But after Clara, could you really get much worse? No, you couldn't, because Bill was great and I really liked her. It made me laugh because after I watched the pilot, I felt like I knew Bill as a person and just related to her in just 1 episode as compared to 3 years that we had of Clara. Right from the get-go, we know the stuff about her mum, we know that her life isn't that exciting, and I know it's sort of standard stuff at this point, but still, sometimes it's good to just go back to the basics. The way she played it was exactly how I would have been if I was in those situations. There were certain points throughout the series where she's asking a certain question, and it does seem like an obvious question, but you're forgetting that you as the audience member, yeah, you've seen the TARDIS, you've seen these different planets and aliens and creatures and all that stuff. Bill hasn't, and yet she's asking these questions, and I thought, yeah, I'd ask that. Like for example, in the pilot where she says, "Where's the toilet?" In over 50 years of Doctor Who, no one has asked that. I mean, is it an absolutely necessary line? No, but I mean, it does make sense. If you are going to be traveling through time and space in a phone box, you do want to know where you're going to have to piss and shit. Now, obviously, she is the first openly gay companion, and obviously Captain Jack doesn't count. But whatever, whether you're including Captain Jack in that or not, it doesn't really matter. Now, is this an issue for me that she was gay? No, it didn't bother me in the slightest, and I think anyone out there, if it did bother you the fact that she was gay, then shame on you really, because that shouldn't be an issue. The issue that I do have though is the fact that every now and again we had to be reminded that she was gay. There were certain moments and scenes that that just felt like they were there just so Bill could tell someone that she's a lesbian. I didn't want it to become a character trait of hers, the fact that she's gay. That shouldn't really define her as a character. So the fact that she felt the need to just say it every now and again, it did kind of detract from her a bit. But other than that, I really enjoyed Pearl Mackie. I really love Bill. She was a complete and utter breath of fresh air. She actually felt like a character, and she definitely wasn't another Clara. So on to the episodes themselves. Now, I'm not going to talk about every single episode individually, but I am going to sort of pick out some certain episodes and talk about them both for the good and for the bad. Starting off with the pilot, may as well, because that is introducing us to the series. Was it a great episode? No. That doesn't mean it wasn't good and it wasn't enjoyable, because it was. The way that they introduced Bill into the series I thought was handled very, very well. It's just a simple scene where she walks in, Nardole lets her in, and then she sits and chats with the Doctor. It's just a nice little scene, and we get a feel for her as a character and all that sort of stuff. And then later on, when we see her go into the TARDIS, it was actually, I thought, one of the best ways to introduce a companion into the TARDIS. The bit where she's just looking out the window and then the camera pans back and you just see everything, and then Capaldi stood there, he's changed his jacket. For us, yeah, we know what the TARDIS looks like, but even I was sort of gasping at that point. Even though I know what the TARDIS is, I was like, oh, wow. I said that really weird, but yes, I did actually enjoy that. Plot-wise, the pilot was more or less a runaround, just sort of running to and from different places across the universe to avoid this puddle woman. Now, I'm going to get onto this more in my second part, and I think most of you will know why, but the main issue that I had with Heather throughout this story was the fact that we didn't really get a sense of her as a person. I didn't really feel like Heather and Bill had a proper connection. So even though there was that whole thing with the promise, I still don't buy the fact that this girl was so in love with Bill or whatever they were trying to hint at. I didn't buy the fact that she would actually follow her across the universe. But again, I will get into this in more detail in the second part. You all know what's coming. You all know what's coming. But overall, the first episode, if you are new to the show, it's not too confusing for you. If you're already an established fan, it's not going to piss you off seeing all these little tropes again, like, oh, it's bigger on the inside, here's the TARDIS, here's the Doctor, here's what he can do, all that shit. Plus, the little nod to the Movellans, awesome. If she doesn't know what the Movellans are, she's too young for you, bro. But if she does, marry her. But overall, surprisingly, a very solid first episode. Not mind-blowing, nothing like that, but it got me back on board for this series again. And in terms of story, the pilot was actually sort of the trend for the series. It felt a lot more stripped back and simplistic. For the most part, less is more. The less complicated shit that you have, the better the stories are, because they feel less convoluted and less just full of unnecessary filler and crap. Now, next episode that I want to pick out is Knock Knock. A lot of people didn't really seem to like this episode. I seem to be one of the few people that actually really enjoyed that episode. And that's the reason why I'm singling it out, because I thought David Suchet did an incredible job. The concept of it I thought was great. As I'm someone who really doesn't like insects, it did make my skin crawl. And the wooden woman at the end, she was really unsettling to me. Her appearance was just really creepy and sort of disturbing, like even down to the way she moved. And you could say that the plot twist of he's actually her son, you could say that that is a bit predictable, but if I'm being totally honest, I actually didn't see that coming. So yeah, Knock Knock, I feel it needs more love. I actually really like that one. The next one that I want to single out is the next episode, Oxygen. Now, this is the episode that absolutely everybody was raving about and was saying was the scary one and all this stuff. I didn't love it. I'm not saying it's bad, it's definitely a good episode. I feel like this is the episode that every year everyone says, yes, this is going to be the one, this is the scary one. Everyone gets hyped for it, and then you watch it and you think, okay, it was fine. I think the concept was better than the execution. Don't get me wrong, there was some great stuff in this episode. The Doctor going blind, which I'm going to get onto in a bit, that was really good. It's exactly what the Doctor would do in that situation. He would give Bill his helmet. The zombies in the spacesuits looked horrendous. In a good way. They didn't look horrendous as in like 60s level Doctor Who, but as in like really, really horrendously good. And then of course the concept of you have to pay for oxygen. That was also really, really good. But the thing is, I just felt like this episode lacked something. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know what it is. There's just something about this episode that when I watch it again, I just feel like it's missing something. Like I say, it's not bad in any way, shape or form, but I just did feel a little bit disappointed by it. Still one of the better episodes of the series though. And then in terms of good episodes, the next one that I'm going to single out is the Empress of Mars. Now, this episode was probably the best episode that Mark Gatiss has ever written for the program. This was just really good. I'm glad that they didn't do the whole thing of the Ice Warrior warriors going out of their suits again. And I'm also glad that we didn't get just one Ice Warrior. I'm glad that we got a load of them. I don't like what they did with their guns though. They did the same thing with the Zygons. They made them do this weird shit that in the classic series they never did. You don't need to give them a gimmick when they kill someone. You know, obviously it's like the weird steel wool shit that the Zygons do, and now it's this weird rubber bouncy ball thing that they'll turn you into if you get shot by an Ice Warrior. Just killing someone and their body just falls is perfectly fine to me. That's my only real gripe with the episode. The rest of it was great. I love the way that they explained it as well. These Victorians were just helping this Ice Warrior back. The cast were really good for the most part as well. And of course we get the Ice Queen. She was very good. Again, sort of an unnecessary addition. I don't know why we need a female Ice Warrior. I mean, if you're gonna have female Ice Warriors, fine, but the fact that they made the armor look female was a bit pointless. It's the whole thing with Captain Phasma in Star Wars. The armor is armor. It's to protect you in a battle. It's not to define your gender. So whilst I do feel she was unnecessary, she was also very good at the same time, and she did win me over. And I like the fact that it wasn't really the Doctor that saved the day. The thing that irritated me is the way that they played it, and I don't know if this is 100% true, but it did seem like the Doctor knew everything was going to be fine all along. I hate stories like that. Just have him in an adventure where he has no fucking idea what's going on and let him solve it. It makes the story feel pointless because in the long run the Doctor didn't actually need to be there. Also, the addition of Alpha Centauri, design wise, I mean, you couldn't get much worse than the old design. I mean, as much as I love the Curse of Peladon, but they updated it. Alpha Centauri, an unnecessary cameo yet again, but a really nice addition. I did appreciate that, and I feel like a lot of fans who do love the classic series would also appreciate that. So there's some of my standout episodes for the best reasons. Well, Oxygen I did sort of pick on a bit, but I still really like it. But yeah, let's talk about some bad episodes then. Every series isn't perfect. There's always going to be some episodes that are just like wasted potential, or they were just flat out crap. One of the biggest disappointments to me was the Monk 3-parter. Now obviously when you have the Doctor blind at the end of Oxygen, you think, oh my god, where are they going to go with this now? The Doctor's life is literally going to change. However, it doesn't really matter because the next episode, Extremis, didn't really happen. Now everyone seemed to love Extremis. I must be one of the only people that flat out hated it. Well, when I say I flat out hated it, I don't mind the first 40 minutes. The only problem is the last 5 sort of ruin it all and make it absolutely pointless and a complete and utter waste of time. Sure, the stuff with the Veritas is great. The stuff with the Pope is great. The stuff with the monks invading is also great. People trying to kill themselves, that is great. However, all that 45 minutes boils down to is an invasion is coming. The concept of aliens actually planning their invasion and actually running a simulation before they invade to see if they'll win is actually a very clever idea. The only issue is it's just a cop-out because it's not real. That idea only works if the monks explain that that's what they did first. Showing it was just pointless to me. Also, how the fuck did a virtual version of the Doctor as well as virtual glasses send a real email to the real Doctor? And how can he even read that email, even if it does somehow manage to send? But how does he read it when he's fucking blind? It was just a load of bollocks to me. And then the second part definitely got better, but the thing is, that should have been part 1. The fact that it was a simple virus that escaped from a lab, that was great. Then again, they just cured the Doctor's blindness at the end of that episode. So in reality, the Doctor was only blind for 1 episode and 5 minutes of the previous one. We didn't really see the Doctor be the Doctor whilst blind. We didn't really get a proper sense of that. I feel it was a real wasted opportunity. If you're gonna do something that major to the Doctor, at least do something incredible with it. I just don't think that they did. And then the third part of the monk story was just crap. The third part just didn't deliver at all. The monks were barely in it, and to be honest, the makeup of the monks, particularly in that third episode, just looked like something out of the Pertwee era. Was it just me that thought that? They just really didn't feel or look that convincing as monsters. I did like the idea of consent. That was probably the only truly great thing that came out of that 3-parter, but it just felt like a waste of time. And that's the thing, it felt really disjointed, I think, because it was written by 3 different people. Moffat wrote part 1, he also co-wrote part 2 with, I think, Peter Harness, and then part 3 was written by someone else. If I've got the names mixed up, I apologise. Didn't really feel cohesive. Each part felt completely different. And Extremis was just a typical Moffat episode of, ooh, what am I gonna do? Oh, did you think it was that? Well, curveball, I've ruined it. And now for me, the biggest disappointment of the series, which was the Eaters of Light. Now, for those of you who don't know why this was such a massive disappointment, it's because it was written by Rona Munro. If you aren't familiar with her, she is the first ever classic series writer to write for the new series. Not only that, Rona Munro wrote Survival, which a lot of people would say Survival is the blueprint for the new series. You watch Survival, you can see a lot of stuff that Russell T Davies would go on to use in series 1 and Series 2 with Rose. So you would think someone who wrote that story that laid the foundation for the new series would be able to come into the new series and just nail it. The Eaters of Light, great title by the way, probably the best title of the series, but in execution, it's probably the most boring and forgettable episode of the entire series. And it's just a massive disappointment. You know, if you're a fan of the classic series, this is a major moment. And like I say, if anyone you were going to bring back from the classic series, it's probably her. But I think I just had this expectation in my head that this was going to be incredible because she's sort of the gap between the old and the new. That doesn't mean I wouldn't want her back again. I definitely want to see her try again and learn from her mistakes this time. But yeah, it was just a bit of a shit one. I didn't really follow what was going on, and then when I did, it just was boring. The Romans and the Scottish people, I didn't really care about them. For the most part, they were pretty bad actors, and I thought the creature just obviously looked like CGI. I mean, I know it was, but it just looked shit. And that drum beat as well. I mean, the Masters used to annoy me, but this one really got on my nerves. It was in my head for about a good 2 hours after the episode finished, and that ending I thought was a bit typical as well. It's, oh no, Doctor, you've got your mission, you carry on with that, I will sacrifice myself, then we'll all join in and we'll all kill ourselves together. Yeah, just a bit standard. Now, I'm going to touch upon Missy a bit more in my next part, but what I want to focus on now in terms of the Master was the Vault. Now, I don't know why I bought into it. I should know by now exactly what Stephen Moffat is like. He does the whole mystery box thing of, ooh, what's in this? What could it be? Who could it be? What is in this mysterious vault? You'll never know. But what he ended up doing was actually doing the most obvious fucking thing once again. Do I mind that Missy was in the vault? Absolutely not. What I do mind though is that it was built up to be this massive big mystery, and at this point we knew John Sim was coming back. The fact that it was Missy was just really boring and redundant. Like, we saw her in the trailers. Just introduce Missy in a normal way. She doesn't need to be in the vault. And I know it's all to do with her turning good, but yeah, that was just crap to me. The whole mystery box thing yet again, and I fell for it. Why? I don't know. The resolution to the thing with Missy I will get onto, but what I do actually want to touch upon in this video is her reason for turning good. What is it? Now, I know she made the promise to the Doctor that, oh, I'll be good, but that's bollocks. The Master always does stuff like that, and it sort of added to my annoyance at Missy not feeling like the Master, because she doesn't. I'm sorry, but after 3 years or 4 years, whatever it is, she just is not the Master to me. I mean, if you are going to have a version of the Master turn good, logically speaking, then yes, it should actually be Missy. But the problem is, this Master has never really done anything terrible anyway, or at least nothing on the scale of any of the other Masters. She's barely killed anyone. She always seems to be trying to be the Doctor's friend. It just didn't work for me, and it just felt completely out of the blue. Like, yeah, the Master was being executed. When isn't he? Or her? There's been multiple times where the Master has died, and he's come back as exactly the same person. Well, alright, maybe not the same person, but still just an evil bastard. But why this time? Why now is she just like, oh, please, Doctor, yes, I'll be good, I promise. I just didn't buy into that. And you could say, well, maybe the Master is sick of just dying and being executed. If that's the case, do that. But they didn't really specify the actual ins and outs of Missy turning good. And if you are actually going to do something like that, you need to make it a bigger plot point than what it actually was. It felt like in a lot of the episodes, they just tacked on a Michelle Gomez cameo where she just appears and says some quips. It didn't really feel fleshed out in any way, shape or form. And I'll talk about the resolution next episode, but frankly, I wasn't buying into it anyway. So up until this point, so far so good for the most part. Like I say, there's a few episodes that I don't like. I like all the others though. I thought Frank Cottrell Boyce actually wrote a decent script that wasn't like in the forest of the shite. Smile was actually really good. The pilot was good, even though it was a runaround. Thin Ice I thought dealt with some great issues. I love the Doctor punching that bloke. I love that punch. Knock Knock I think is underrated. Oxygen, still good, but just something missing. Monk 3-parter can fuck off, as can the Eaters of Light, but the Empress of Mars was another stellar episode and probably Mark Gatiss' best script. I mean, I like more episodes than I dislike, so far I'm enjoying it. So join me tomorrow, if you're watching this on Saturday, where I will be talking about the 2-part finale, World Enough in Time, and the Doctor Falls, as well as the return of the Master, some other plot points, my overall view of the series, and my final rating as well. Also what I'm looking forward to at Christmas, if anything. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like on it, subscribe to make sure that you don't miss part 2, comment below what you think of the first 10 episodes of Series 10, and if you do any of that, then I will love you forever. But until next time, guys, take care of yourselves. Goodbye. With the exception of a handful episodes, with the exception...